So let's talk about the alienation in art. I'm a poet. I have been writing poetry since I was 14 years old. I did it mostly for therapeutic reasons. I felt like there were so many words inside my head. If I wasn't going to put them down, my head was just going to burst. So I had to write. It wasn't really a choice I made. I felt like I had to write, so I did. I wrote. I wrote many poems, and I thought they were trash. But I kept writing them because I just couldn't stop. And I was always drawn to the world of literature. I've always wanted to be a writer. When I was 14, I also started writing my first novel. I finished it, and I thought it was trash. I created my own universe, was pretty complicated, was hugely inspired by The Lord of the Rings. I was 14, okay? Actually, maybe I was even younger. Maybe I was 13 when I wrote my first novel. I'm not too sure. But I finished the novel and I never got back to it. I never revised it. I never perfected it. And it might be still lying around somewhere. But the point is, all my adolescence, I kept writing and thinking that my writing was not good enough to be shared with others. And that was the beginning of my journey in alienating myself from my art. The reason why I thought my art was not worth sharing with others is because I thought it was not quality content. So I thought that if you want to be a writer, your writing is supposed to be a certain way. And I had very rigid standards for good writing. And whenever I felt like I did not meet these standards, I would automatically just discard whatever it was I wrote. And in many other areas of my life, whenever art was concerned, I never let myself express myself fully because I thought that it wasn't good enough. The core aspect of alienation in art, at least to me, has always been selling my art. I always thought that art had to be consumed by a certain audience, and if it wasn't consumed by this targeted audience, then it was not worth making. So I would always try to create art with profit in mind. I would always think that, oh, who am I gonna sell this to? Who am I going to offer this to? And this is a very, very harmful notion in art. If you begin creating art thinking of who you're going to sell it to, you will most likely fail in your attempt. And not because your art is not going to sell, and not because your art is not going to be of good quality. It's because the purpose of art is different. The purpose of art is to share whatever it is your soul is full of. If your soul is full of joy, how can you measure it? If your soul is full of sadness, what price tag are you going to put on it? Selling art, I think, is a very degrading notion. It is like offering people to sell their tears. I never wanted to sell my art. I wanted to create art because I enjoyed the process and because it was necessary for my mental health. But I always felt guilty creating art because I thought I was wasting my time and resources. Instead of doing something useful, I was just sitting there ruminating and crying and writing poetry like some kind of lame individual. And as the time went by, I got over myself in some aspects of my life, and I realized that mental health was crucial to my well-being, and whatever brought me joy or satisfaction was worth spending time on. So I came back to writing poetry. Well, in fact, I never stopped writing poetry. I always wrote poetry in short little bursts of months or years. And as an adult, writing poetry became a me thing for me. I started treating it as self-care. And I mean, yeah, poetry is to an extent a way of taking care of oneself, but it is so much more than that. And any art, it's more than just you taking care of yourself. It's you sharing whatever it is that is essential to your being with others. The key to art is creating it and sharing it. If you create art and never share it with anyone, well, I mean, there is use in that as well. However, art needs to be shared, it needs to be spread, because it is you talking to others, it is you sharing your deepest soul's secrets with others, it is you inviting people into the most intimate corners of yourself. And there is so much value in doing that. It is so important we humans learn to connect to each other on all these different levels. As soon as humans learn to communicate, they explored various ways of doing so. And it has become one of the core aspects of humanity, the ability to share one's thoughts and feelings with others in different forms. So art is this communication that taps into the side that is hard to explain with words sometimes. It taps into our spirituality. It taps into our identity. So many things can be done with the use of art. And if you start treating art as a product, you devalue it greatly. Art starts losing its meaning when it is for sale. And if others decide to buy your art, there is no harm in that. But creating art with profit in mind is destroying the essence and the core of art. I think that artists should be provided for, just like any human. Artists should be provided with basic necessities, and any person of any walk of life should be able to access basic necessities at any time, no matter how much or how little they do. And artists are no exception. If you create art and it is beneficial to others, then you are greatly contributing. If you're creating art and nobody wants it, well, you wanted it, so there is value in that as well. Limiting your art to its monetary value is dehumanizing. Art is essential to our well-being as human species. Art is a way we communicate to each other. The way you can communicate through the art medium is difficult to achieve through other means. So art has a big place in human society, and we should not treat art as a product, because ultimately it takes away its core value. And if you are an artist, you should create art for art's sake. And it sounds very lame. I've always found it difficult to make art for art's sake. To me, not making art was like slowly rotting away. It was like dying a terrible death. So to me, creating art is not a question of who wants it. It's a question of survival. I have to make art, and art I will make. And I urge everyone who feels that burning passion for a certain art to do just that. Create art and don't worry about who is going to consume it. We need to together fight for the society where everyone is given what is necessary for survival.